Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us, especially after lunch on a beautiful day. We're all from Seattle, so the beautiful weather outside is in contrast with what we usually get in Seattle this time of year. So thank you all for joining us. It sounds like we're starting on time. We had an excuse that we were getting our hair done, and that's why we're not here on time. But apparently, we're starting on time, so thank you all for joining. So I'm Gabriel Esparza, Gabriel Esparza, if I'm not covering. So I'm part of the Azure Cost Management team. I've been working with the team for a number of years, trying to learn about FinOps. There's a lot to learn in this space. I think we've learned a lot in this conference from you, and we're looking forward to continuing to talk to you later today and early tomorrow and learn some more. So thank you all for joining us. As I was saying, we're part of the cost management team, and we have several data sets that we provide our customers. In order to understand the FinOps space, like cost details, price sheets, et cetera. And these are just some of the data sets that are needed in order to understand really what's happening in an organization that is leveraging the cloud as well as online services. Microsoft provides, I guess that's I'm behind one slide apparently. Microsoft provides several data sets, many of these coming from different services like Azure Advisor, Azure Monitor, and of course the cost management team that we're part of. In order to do a true fine job with FinOps, you need to analyze all of these data sets together, many coming from third parties as well. So how can you do this? It is a daunting task. Essentially what I'm trying to say here is your job is really hard, and we're trying to help you out. And hopefully in today's presentation, you'll see a few tools that can help you out with this. When we talk to customers about understanding data sets, about being able to leverage them for their FinOps job, we hear different types of challenges. How can I analyze this amount of data? If I try to download some of the data into my home computer, my kids complain that Netflix is not working. That we definitely heard during the pandemic several times. For a small organization, this can run into gigs of data. When you think about medium to large enterprises, when you think about analyzing data for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you can easily run into hundreds of gigabytes or a terabyte of data. So analyzing this amount of data is not an easy task. Another challenge is how can one get insights from this very large amounts of data? What's interesting here? What should I go after? There's a wealth of opportunities in so much data. And once I have some insights, how can I drive action in my organization with this? How can I drive accountability with all of this data? So keep these 3 problems in mind. We'll come back to them later in the presentation.
Microsoft Fabric is redesigning how we work with data by bringing all your data and analytics tools into a single experience. With Fabric's Data Lake, One Lake, your teams can connect to data from anywhere and all work from the same copy across engines. Your data professionals have all the tools they need, all in one SaaS experience to reduce the cost and effort of integration. Features like Direct Lake Mode in Power BI, which provides a blazing fast, real-time connection to your data, can save you time and cost while providing up-to-date insights. This intelligence can then securely flow to the Microsoft 365 applications people use every day to improve decision-making and drive impact. All backed by Fabric's tight integration with Microsoft Purview to govern and protect your data, no matter where it's used. AI-powered features like Copilot help everyone be more productive, whether it's creating data flows and pipelines, writing SQL statements, or building reports. And as we enter a future built on AI, you can unify, prepare, and model your data to support truly game-changing AI projects. All your data, all your teams, all in one place. This is Microsoft Fabric.
I love these videos. They're always so upbeat that our marketing department puts together, and then you get to hear us talk the rest of the presentation. So Microsoft Fabric, as you just saw in the video, is a new SaaS offering from Microsoft that tries to bring in all your data workflows into one place. Think of Microsoft Fabric as the office for the data world. And the rest of the presentation, we'll talk about Fabric, and especially as it relates to FinOps and the opportunities that are there, and especially to bring in AI as part of it. As part of Fabric, we're making four promises. So starting on the upper part and going clockwise, one of the key promises that we're making here is that it's an integrated platform. So all your workloads for data are in one place. And with this, we have integrated governance as well as permissions for one data set that flow into the rest, and everything is in one place. The second bullet there is one trusted foundation. That foundation is one lake. One lake is where all your data is stored. There is a single copy of all of your data, and this prevents different silos, replication, different permissions, the same data set in a bunch of different places. There's only one copy, one place, and one set of permissions for each data set. The next bullet at the bottom is AI. Throughout all the workloads for your data work, there are AI offerings. So Copilot is there with you at every stage of the work, and we'll go into that in more detail in the rest of the presentation and what the value that you can get. Now, we think also as Fabric as the place where all the members of the organization can get their data needs. So if you're a data engineer, if you're a FinOps practitioner, if you're management, if you're in engineering, if you're in business, marketing, et cetera, you can get data and integrate it into your normal workflows all from Fabric. So I'll go deeper into each one of these 4 bullets. So I was saying Microsoft Fabric has all the typical data workloads all in one place. From ingesting data, ETL, processing the data to get what you need, deriving insights, summarizing data, creating reports, providing them to your organization, and the last one, Data Activator, identifies key aspects of the data and enables reporting and alerting on that data and those insights that were identified. Throughout each one of these different workloads, there's Copilot support. So whether you're an engineer or a FinOps practitioner, there are Copilot capabilities to help you out do your job. All of this on top of one lake, as I was describing before. It's a place where all your data is stored. There's a single copy of your data with one set of permissions. So this avoids problems like, hey, an intern set up a copy of the data and suddenly a whole swath of the organization suddenly has access to a bunch of data that they shouldn't have been getting access to. And all of this is in a unified business model. I think a key aspect here that is interesting to the audience is that in a traditional organization with traditional data tools, you need to have capacity for 5, 10 different tools, and you need to measure each one and determine how much each one is going to be used, what is the forecast for each one. With Fabric, you have one capacity to worry about, and that's it. You plan for that one, and you execute. So this unified platform helps you make sure that your life is a little bit simpler. So this is a simplified version of the same image before. So how can I get my data into one lake? Well, there's 2 mechanisms. One is through shortcuts. Shortcuts really just point to an existing data source that you may already have in your organization. It does not create a copy, just references that existing data set. Another one is through mirroring. You bring in data into Fabric. So you're essentially making a copy of the data, you're putting it in one lake, and hopefully from that point on, you only have that one copy to worry about. So these are the 2 ways that you can bring data. We have a number of connectors that are supported, and we're always releasing more, we're always creating more, so you can bring data from whatever you have your data currently. As I was saying, Fabric is meant to help you and help any member of the organization with whatever it is that they're doing. If you're a data engineer, if you're a manager, if you're a FinOps practitioner, Fabric is integrated with all the tools in the tool ecosystem that you're already using with Microsoft M365, Azure, Dynamics, Power Platform, et cetera, as well as a number of third-party applications. So you can use data in the tools that you're already accustomed to using that are part of your organization's culture and workflow. And Copilot is there throughout all of these experiences. If you're a data engineer creating pipelines, summarizing the data, doing ETL on the data, if you're a practitioner identifying insights, creating reports, creating alerts that go out to your organization when something happens, all of these are part of the what Copilot can allow you to do. Now, we talked about 3 challenges that organizations have when analyzing FinOps data: scale, how to find insights, and how to drive action from that. So going back to those 3 problems, the promises that we're making with Fabric attempt to solve these challenges. So for instance, in analyzing data at scale, you can analyze terabytes and terabytes of data. Microsoft is running several of our workloads on top of Fabric. We're democratizing the use of data. You can bring your data from wherever it is, and a reminder that you have one single copy of your data. Deriving insights, this has never been easier through Copilot. It is very trivial to do this. And because everything's integrated into the applications you're already using, that your organization's already using, driving action through that is a lot easier than it's been in the past. Now, let's look at all of this in action, not just in slides. So Shiv will help us with that.
Thank you, Gabriel. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shiv Singh. I'm a group engineering manager at Microsoft. And today I'm going to show you how you can use Microsoft Fabric to enable cloud cost reporting and FinOps for your organization. I'm also going to show you how you can leverage some of the built-in AI capabilities in Fabric to do data analysis and extract key insights from your cost data sets at scale. But before I jump into the demo, let me give you some context. So Sarah is a person who works for a company that has cloud spend across multiple CSPs. She's also responsible for implementing FinOps across her organization. The first thing Sarah wants to do is set up cloud cost reporting for each department within her organization. She also wants to be able to set budgets at each department level so that she can drive accountability with the department leaders for the total cloud spend in their departments. Furthermore, she wants to ensure that each department is empowered to continuously monitor their cloud spend and, based on certain conditions, be able to execute custom business workflows to take specific actions. So let's see how Sarah can use Microsoft Fabric and its capabilities to implement all of these FinOps scenarios very quickly for her organization. So we'll start the demo with Microsoft Schedule Exports. So for those of you who are not familiar with Schedule Exports, it's an experience available in Azure Cost Management Portal. It allows you to get access to your cost and usage reports and various other data sets on a recurring basis. I'm happy to announce that we are natively supporting Focus 1.0 schema for cost and usage reports in the Schedule Exports experience. So today, if you went to Schedule Exports, you would be able to download cost and usage reports in the Focus 1.0 schema that got ratified earlier this month. We have also updated the user experience to include scenario-driven data templates. For this demo, given that our scenario is cloud reporting, we are going to select the cloud reporting template. And as you can see, it automatically selects these 2 data sets, which are fully pre-configured. There is cost and usage report, and there is price sheet. If you want to go ahead and customize this list, you can always add more data sets. Let's see how that works. So you can select price sheet, other cost and actual or amortized data sets. You can select various other RI data sets as well. Once you select the data set, you have the option to select the schema of the data version that you're interested in. You can also configure the frequency with which this data should be exported to your storage account. Once you have the final list of data sets ready, it's time to configure your storage destination. In our demo example, we are going to use Azure Data Lake Storage as a destination. So let's configure ADLS storage here. Once you have specified an ADLS storage account, you will have the option to select from a variety of file formats, like you can select CSV or Parquet. You can also choose to enable compression on your data sets to reduce your storage cost and the bandwidth transfer fees. One key thing to remember is to enable file override behavior. What this does is, as your cloud cost data continuously changes over the current month, it makes sure that there is no duplicate files in your storage account. This is really important for your reporting to work end-to-end. Once these export jobs are set up, they run on a daily basis and continuously push your latest data sets to your ADLS storage account. Now, for a reporting scenario to meaningfully work, we also need to backfill historical data. So we have a turnkey way in schedule exports to backfill your historical data. You can select any export job and pick a start date and end date and kick off an on-demand run to backfill your historical data sets. Once all of these on-demand job runs complete, let's jump over to the Azure Data Lake storage to browse the files to see how they look like. You'll notice that all these files are structured in an intuitive folder format, organized by date. And each folder, you'll also find a manifest file that describes the content of the folder as well as the context surrounding the data. This can be used for you to programmatically understand the intent and semantics of the data that you're processing. Now that we have prepared all the data sets that we need for reporting, it's time to jump into the Microsoft Fabric workspace to see how you can use these data sets for doing data analysis and implementing reporting. By now, you already know Microsoft Fabric is an all-in-one big data analytics platform for your organization. The first step we are going to take in Fabric is to set up a lakehouse. Think of a lakehouse as a placeholder where you can bring in all your structured and unstructured data sets together, where you can do data analysis at scale. I'll show you quickly how you can set up a lakehouse. We'll just give this lakehouse a name. We'll call it FinOps X Lakehouse. Once this lakehouse is created, it's time to bring in all the data sets that we exported to Azure Data Lake storage into Fabric and this lakehouse. Now, Fabric supports something called shortcuts, which allows you to bring data from multiple storage engines. For example, if your data is in AWS S3 or Azure Data Lake storage, GCP storage, and many more storage engines, you could just create a shortcut and reference the data within the concept of lakehouse. I'll show you how this works. So here, given that your data sets are already sitting in ADLS, we are going to select the Azure Data Lake storage engine. We'll configure a connection string to the ADLS account. And as soon as you connect, you can browse all the containers and the directory structures of the data that we exported. And just like that, we were able to bring in all of these data sets that are sitting in ADLS storage account within the lakehouse for the various compute engines in Fabric to process. Now, these shortcuts are just symbolic links. There is no underlying physical movement of data. The other benefit is there is a single copy of data that is always present in your one lake, which is shared by all various compute engines. So whether you're using Azure Data Factory or you're using Azure Synapse or Power BI, they're not creating multiple copies of the data, but we're operating on the same copy of data. This is exactly how, if you have a multi-cloud footprint, you could bring in your curve files for AWS by creating a shortcut to your S3 buckets. If you want to do reporting based on your organizational hierarchy, you could also go ahead and connect your organizational hierarchy from your lakehouse and bring that data set in here as well. Now that we have connected our lakehouse to all the data sets that we are interested in, it's time to jump over to Power BI to see how we can enable reporting on this data set. The first thing we are going to do is select the data sets that we are interested in for reporting and create a Power BI semantic model out of it. Once the Power BI semantic model is created, I'm going to show you how you can leverage the built-in AI capability in Power BI to automatically create a very basic report that helps you analyze your cloud spend. I'll show this working in action. So here, we are selecting the semantic model that I created by selecting the organizational hierarchy, the cost usage report, and the price sheet that I exported to the ADLS storage account. And I'm using the auto-create feature, which is driven by AI, to automatically create a report so what the AI does behind the scene is it parses through all the columns, tries to understand the semantics and the intent behind the column definition, and creates a report. As you can see, you can analyze your total cloud bill cost by billing month. You can also see it sliced and diced by your individual department and organizational hierarchy. You can also see your cloud spend by each organizational leader. You can slice and dice this data the way you like. Now think of this as a great starting point. And you can always go ahead and customize this report for your advanced and more tailored scenarios. Power BI also Fabric also has something called Data Activator, which allows you to continuously monitor a stream of data. And based on certain conditions, you can trigger alerts. For example, in this case, we are asking Data Activator to continuously monitor your bill spend for a specific department for every month. And in case it exceeds a certain threshold, it can go ahead and raise an alert. You can wire this alert to trigger an email, send a Teams message to any person in the organization. You can also use it to trigger Power Automate workflows. And in Power Automate, you can customize your business workflows to take any programmatic action, like writing to a database or even creating a service ticket for a service engineer to take specific actions on. So you see how different components of Fabric enable you to be more productive as well as drive accountability across your various departments within the organization. Now, I'm going to show you some of the Copilot capabilities that come pre-built within the Fabric workspace. In this example, you can launch your Copilot Assistant by clicking on the button on the top right corner of your screen. Think of Copilot as a virtual AI assistant that is capable of analyzing all the data and the reports, as well as the data that is fueling this report. So you can ask questions in natural language. For example, let's ask Copilot to summarize the cost spent for the last quarter of 2023. Now, Copilot is going to understand that the last quarter of 2023 means October 1st to December 31st. It's going to scan through all your cost data sets across your organization. It's going to summarize the cost by the column. We didn't specify the column. And it will spit out the summary. Let's ask Copilot another question. For example, which service category in Azure are we spending the most amount of money on? From the report, you can see it looks like it's storage. And that is what Copilot answers. You can even ask department-specific questions, like what does David's organization's cost structure look like? Now remember, David is not an attribute in the data set. It's an attribute value. And I didn't even give the full name of David. And Copilot was able to discern that David is being referred to an organization leader, and it's probably referring to David Thomas. And it scanned the data only for all the services under David's organization and was able to summarize the spend. Now, these are some very direct, specific questions. You can also ask open-ended questions to the Copilot. For example, you can ask Copilot to do an analysis on the underlying data set and extract key insights that can help a FinOps person in your organization, optimize your cloud spend. So let's see. Here's an example. So what Copilot is going to do is analyze all your data, is going to detect patterns and trends, and is going to give you some suggestions that you can use as a starting point to look into places where you can optimize the cloud spend. Now, before wrapping up my demo, I also wanted to talk about some of the various compute engines that are available in Microsoft Fabric for you to do big data analysis. So if you're a data science engineer, or ML scientist, and let's say you want to do anomaly detection on all of your cost data sets that are available in Fabric, you can very quickly open a notebook in Fabric, access the same data sets that you exported or brought in your one lake, and write a Spark job. You can even schedule your Spark job and create an automated data pipeline. As you can use Synapse ML to implement and host your machine learning models to extract further insights from your data sets. So in all, Fabric has a solution for all your big data engineering problems for your organization. If you like this talk, and if you're interested in trying out Microsoft Fabric to enable FinOps for your organization, here are some useful links for you to get started. It was really a pleasure talking to all of you guys. Thank you for your time. And with this, I'll open up the forum for further question and answers.
Hey, by the way, if you want to follow, you might want to go back one slide in case. And if you want to follow these steps, step by step to do it on your side. We will publish in our blog the instructions, detailed instructions to follow them, so that it's a little bit easier than to go through the recording. So we'll publish that early next week. So,
question. So as you backfill your data over historical, you said 7 years.
For certain channels, we do support backfilling data up to
Perfect.
7 years.
So is that the data being ingested in its native format as it was delivered at point in time, or is it all coming through focus format?
So you can select focus format. So think of, we already support the Azure schema that all the workloads are currently onboarded and are used to, so we continue to support that. But you have the option to select focus schema as well, in which case we'd be exporting the data set to you in focus schema.
He's itching his head. Oh, way back there.
My question is for the ingestion of the data. One of the pieces there was organizational leader. Is it using tags, or how does it handle not very good tagged environment, or what's your experience in how it's been handling that?
A great question. So there are a few options at your disposal. Like you could use tagging for your Azure resources, and you could use tags as a mechanism to slice and dice and determine the department. Alternatively, your organization, if it is large, might be using something else to manage organizational hierarchy, and might be using some other tool, for instance, to do a mapping between your organization and services and the subscriptions and the resources that those services consume. In which case, you can directly connect to the data source and bring that in Fabric, and you can join these data sets and do reporting on top of it. So both the options are completely acceptable and would work with Fabric.
if your organization is like Microsoft that has reorgs faster than we can tag resources, then you might want to do the second option where you bring your own data and join it. So it's part of what we're trying to do with Fabric. You can look at the FinOps data, the cost management data, but you can bring data from any data sources that you have. Like if you have on-prem, and you can bring data from that, or from another cloud provider, another service, you can join it with any data that you might be interested in.
Yep. It also depends on where your organization is in terms of like implementing governance model. Like I was speaking to a few folks here, and the organization are very particular about when you create a resource, they mandate that you have these X, Y, and Z tags always be available. Some organizations have not reached that kind of maturity level because they have footprints on-prem, they're migrating their workloads to cloud, they want to do analysis, cloud sprint across both the systems, and the tagging model doesn't work seamlessly across both the systems. So they would rather use the second model.
Hi, I have a question on the backfilling the data. How long we can get the data? Because the data export job has a limitation of 1 year or so to retrieve the data. Is there any limitation to get the backfilling data?
Right. So for your cost and usage reports, you can backfill your data via APIs for up to 7 years. There may be different limitations based on different data sets. The platform supports, so think about this as an experience where you come and get like all your cloud data sets, like your price sheet, your reservation details, your reservation transactions, and so on. For cost and usage details, which gives you, your consumption data on Azure, by API, you should be able to backfill data, going back, I think, up to 7 years for most of the channels.
Yes. The question is in the context of pull request. The API allows you to so as a client, I need to break that into multiple things.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like.
Repeat the question.
Repeat the question?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the question here, if I get it right, is that hey, the API allows you to download the export the data set for a smaller period at a time, which is about a month boundary, and you make multiple API calls to backfill the data. This is we work with a lot of large companies and ISVs and so on, and your data footprint could be like 50 gigabyte, 100 gigabyte in a just for a single month of usage. So we want to make sure that when you schedule a job, that it is finite amount of data that we transfer at a time. So, but you can queue up all of these export jobs via APIs very quickly if you're using if you're using CLIs or program.
Yes, I have a question here. So can you bring in resource level utilization data into Fabric and then derive insights?
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
Resource level utilization data and bring into Fabric and then derive insights.
So when you say resource level utilization data, do you mean your Azure Monitor data?
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can bring in all your Azure Monitor data into Fabric, and you can join your Azure Monitor data, which is utilization data, along with your cost and usage data, and implement cost optimization recommendations for your teams in the company. Absolutely, I think that's a legitimate use case.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I think you
Great
had a
question.
follow-up question on this side, right?
So you have the choice. So if you open the experience, you can select whether you want to export the data in focus format or the regular Azure schema format. So when you backfill, you have exactly the same option. So you can export the historical data in focus format. So Microsoft Synapse is, so you mean Azure Synapse? So Azure Synapse allows you to big data analytics on Azure. Think of Fabric as a SaaS version of it. If you're using Azure Synapse, you have to bring in, you have to provision resources. So think of Microsoft Fabric as a low-code, no-code experience for people to quickly stitch together your big data and analytical workloads. It is built on top of exactly the same technology, Azure Synapse. So what I mean is, behind the scene, it's using the same technology that Azure Synapse uses. So when you get a Microsoft Fabric workspace, you buy certain capacity, which is compute that is assigned to it. And you also get something called a one-lake storage, where you bring in all your data sets together. Now the compute and the storage are completely isolated from each other. Now Synapse is just Synapse. When you're talking about like Synapse, there is just one compute engine. Fabric provides you multiple compute engines. For example, you can use Azure Data Factory to create data pipelines. You can create Synapse Analytics, which in Azure world is called Azure Data Explorer, that can help you do real-time analytics. You can use Power BI for visualization. Same way, you also have like Synapse, data science engineering to implement and host your machine learning models. There is Synapse Analytics that can help you implement your data warehouse. So you can use various compute engines on the same copy of data stored in one lake without creating copies. So this is like a SaaS version of your analytic platform.
Okay. And I just want to remind you, this is a rowdy audience. Let's use the microphone so we can all understand the context of what's being answered. So.
My question is around focus. So is the latency on focus data same as the normal like Microsoft data? We still have to wait for 48 hours on focus data?
Oh, a great question. So let me rephrase the question. So you're saying, hey, whatever is the latency on our existing cost and usage reports, is the latency going to be exactly the same as focus? And the answer to that is yes. Think of focus as just a transformation on the schema of the data set that we are producing to you so that you can start conforming to the focus standards. So yes. While here we have Shiv Watson, who is the VP of engineering at Azure. So he wants to definitely add on to that.
Verification though, you talked about it as 48 hours. Normally when you spin up a VM, the charges flows into the cost and usage reports anywhere between 8 to 24 hours normally. And one of the systems that we actually are working on is to reduce the latency into drastically within a few hours. And some of our customers are already seeing it because we actually started getting them into these benefits, and we'll continue to see these benefits. So within a few hours, you'll be able to get all the charges all the way from you spinning a VM and getting access to the cost and the charges part of it, including the focus format.
By the way, we have a bug in the slide where some of the QR codes are not working, so apologies about that. Feel free to come to our booth. We'll have the links there. Also, we'll put all the information in the blog when we publish it on Monday. Apologies.
If you want to learn more about Microsoft Fabric, we also have flashcards that will educate you more. So please come and grab it up at the booth.
We learned a thing or two last night going through those, so please go pick them up.
Hi. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Okay, these are questions.
If I'm using Fabric connected to an S3 bucket for AWS Cur data, and then I use that same Fabric for a Power BI report, when I'm dynamically shifting through the data, is there any latency as it cools the S3 bucket, or does that take a copy of that data essentially and put it in one lake and then it goes directly from that? Or?
Great question. So the Fabric, Power BI compute internally, Fabric has got its own Delta Lake format. So it pulls all the data in a Delta Lake format, which is highly compressed. It gives you, close to 85 to 90% compression rate. So you would not see any latency. In fact, the demo that you saw here, this was, recorded demo live. So we pull close to, like 20 gigabytes data in ADLS storage account. We asked it to create a report, and within 20 seconds, it was able to, slice and dice this data in real time. So the answer is no, you wouldn't see latency.
A big challenge that we've had in the past with Power BI has been the sheer amount of time that was needed to ingest data into Power BI. And many workflows were timing out. We've heard this loud and clear from customers. So the intent here is to provide a much, much higher ceiling to analyze data without having to wait for it to be ingested.
And just a quick follow-up, sorry. I'm a big fan of low-code, no-code, so I really like using Power Automate to do all this, and it's easy to hand over to other people. So in updating that report on a daily basis, for example, can we do everything? Everything's available through Power Automate with Fabric, so every day it refreshes all the data and...
Yes, this is continuous. So the setup, for example, once you set up your schedule exports, they continuously run, push the data to ADLS. And once you create a shortcut, one lake always has the latest view of your data sets. So Power BI is always working on your latest data. So as your new cost data from AWS or Azure continuously flow in, the reporting that you see would be like on the latest data set.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Also, if you think of a question right after you step out, feel free to come to the booth. We'll be around. I think this is certainly a FinOps journey, not a moment. So we're looking forward to be in touch with all of you also as we go forward.
All right, thank
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X 2024 content on our YouTube channel on the 2024 playlist. Support our channel by liking, subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and by leaving comments and questions for our speakers. We appreciate your support.